Hello. For the first few months of the year I was flying this quadcopter frame here. It's the good old Diatone FPV 250, sort of a tough nylon frame with this add-on set of plates that you can get. These are just fiberglass plates. There's actually supposed to be another one at the back that I did not use, and I probably should have, because as you can see the plate here has been bent around quite a bit in a crash. And obviously I've taken all the electronics off it and recycled it to be used in another quad at the moment, but I really liked the way this flew. I really liked the layout. Well, it didn't fly any differently to the other one, I suppose, but I really liked the layout, and I kind of like the look of it too, aesthetically. It's a little bit like those alien frames that the pros use, but just a little bit shorter, and I just like the look of it. So I had actually been considering maybe designing my own version of this layout as carbon fiber. So I was quite interested to see this quad that showed up on Banggood a couple of weeks ago, I suppose, because it's basically exactly what I was thinking of doing myself. So I thought, wow, I'll give that a try. It's $26, and it comes with the mount for a GoPro, or I guess the Xiaomi Yi camera on top would fit there as well. And it's quite nice and slim, which I like as well. I just like the look of it, I guess. not too much functionality that's different from a whole lot of other quadcopters. But I thought I'd make a video about this since I got it, and also because Travis Grindle hasn't done it yet. Boy, you've got to be quick to beat him, don't you? So hopefully he doesn't put this up before I do. Otherwise you can go and watch his, I suppose. Actually, I ordered another frame before this one, the RD210, which Travis Grindle has already done a video of, so I'll put a link to that in the description maybe. And I haven't actually decided which of these two frames I'm going to use, but it will probably be this X style one. Anyway, so let's just have a look at what you get in the box here. The box says, well, it would be konchu, I guess, in Japanese, which means insect. So I guess there's another insect name frame. And over here it says, imagine to change the world. No, it's not going to be changing the world. So we have the plates. You get some little bits of foam, which is kind of nice. Not really necessary and wasn't mentioned on the listing, but there they are. The standoffs are purple instead of the black that they had in the photos, except for those two, which are, I guess, to go between the camera plates. And you get a, wow, that is a lot of nuts and bolts. 35 grams of nuts and bolts. I hope we don't need to use all of those. That's a lot of weight there. And the plates are in this bag, which is split open there, so there's nothing too fancy about the packaging, that's for sure. And let's see what we got here. The arms are 4mm. Looks like quite nice carbon fiber there. You can almost see where the CNC machine has gone into a straight line instead of a perfect curve, can't you? Anyway, so it should have 4 of those. That's the main plate. It looks kind of thin in the middle, doesn't it? Especially with that hole in the middle. I'm not sure if I would have put this hole here, because the other bottom piece also has a hole. I guess you could pass a wire through there if that's going to be helpful maybe, but even if you want to pass a wire, you don't need a hole that big to do it. Camera plates. Oh, these are, that looks like 2mm thick there. Yep. So those are 2mm. This is 2mm. So I'm not sure if I'm going to use these. Some funny little cutting on the side there, isn't there? It's like the drill has gone in almost in the wrong place, or it's gone out at the wrong place. Just there. It's very thin there too, isn't it? So those would be together, and then we have the top plate, this little camera plate, which is, that's about 1.5 mil. This is 2 mil, and this is 2 mil as well. Let me just double check, I'm pretty sure they are. Yeah. Yeah, this is one thing that I didn't actually notice when I bought it. From the photos, they don't give you a very good look at the quad from the side, so I had no idea that it was going to be one of these split level frames when I ordered it. Let's just have a look at that. So these are the photos you get. It's not obvious there. Oh, it is kind of obvious there, isn't it? Yeah. Alright. It's not obvious there, really. Or there. Or there. So I saw this and I thought it was a separate piece that was optional, that you could stick on top, and it would have vibration damping between this and the main top plate. So I guess I purchased it a little bit quickly, shall we say. The other thing about this set of photos that I think is a little bit annoying is you can see they've photoshopped something out of the background. So the holes in the end of the arm here, they've cut the white through there, but the ones at the back, obviously it's been sitting on something that was black, and they haven't bothered to cut through them, all of them. And some of these other pictures, you can see it looks circular in the holes there when it's actually octagonal. If we look at these holes there, they're actually octagons. So I think that's a bit sloppy. I don't know why they couldn't have just put it on top of a white sheet or a white background and taken a photo. That would have been much better. And it would have also been nice if they had have given you a photo of all of the plates laid out like they sometimes do, like kind of like we have here, and then you could get a better look at what is going to be in the kit. But anyway, I guess it's not a big deal that this is a split level design. The pros, I guess, is that your battery is going to be a little bit lower down, so center of gravity will be a little bit closer to the line of the props, I guess. Not a big deal. It also means that your battery in a crash, if you're hitting something going forwards, as you probably will be, the battery is not going to be slamming into your camera and pushing it off, which I guess if you're using these for a GoPro, it wouldn't be doing that anyway. But I'm probably just going to put my run cam up here on some foam or Velcro or something like that, and it's nice that the battery's not going to slam into it and shove it forwards and push it off. So that's a pro. The con is, at least for me, sometimes I like to fly with no camera and a 2200 milliamp hour battery, which is pretty big, and to put it on and balance it properly, you sort of have to put it right in the middle, so you want it to go there. And with this being like that, it's a little bit awkward to do that, so that's a small con for me only. Maybe nobody else wants to do that, but I sometimes do. Anyway, let me start putting this together, and we'll come back in a minute and have a look at what it's... Oh, wait a minute. I did actually open this bag a little bit before and look at the cuts, and we'll just look at this one, for example, maybe. They're pretty decently done. Not up to the Armatan workshop standards, but they're not terrible. You can sort of see a little bit sort of a scratchy edge on some of them. I think maybe this... Yeah, they're not too bad. And the plates themselves, there's none of that black powder on them that there was on one of those other frames that I had, so that's nice. But if you're fussy about them all getting scratched up in shipping, there was one here that was all scratched up, and there was a little chip out of the corner of it somewhere. Very, very small, but if you're fussy about that, I just thought I'd mention it. I don't care myself, but anyway, so let's put this together. Okay, that's the frame all built up there, and you can see it's just on 140 grams. We didn't need to use all of the screws, fortunately. Looks like they've included some spares. And I've just left these bits out to show you something. Just a second. The way that this piece here is attached is they've used a shorter spacer than the front one, and then another little spacer like that to make up the difference. So that's what this is here. And then you use one of these fairly long screws to go through into the bottom spacer like that. I'll just push it together. Oh, well, you see what I mean, right? So that's all very well, but one little annoyance is that this piece in here is threaded inside. So the screw doesn't just slide through it, you have to turn the screw to get it through this piece. And that leaves you with this situation if you're not careful. I've kind of done it on purpose to show you, but if I take my screwdriver and I try and turn this, it's tight. I can't turn that screw anymore, but hopefully you can see in the middle there, the plate is able to move between them. So what I would have done is or what I might do actually, is drill this out so that you don't have that issue. The way you can fix it, of course, is just to loosen that screw a bit and then try and turn that center standoff so that it's pressing against there. Yeah, well anyway, it's not a big deal, but it's just a slight annoyance. So now it's, oh, that's great. Just something to watch out for, I suppose. Apart from that, everything was fine. It went together very nicely. No misaligned holes or wrong sized holes or anything like that. Feels very nice and sturdy. I have a few things lined up here just to go through and mention. It's my to-do list. First one is, of course, well, the first one was to mention this height, which is 25 millimeters. So it's a fair bit shorter than the typical ZMR 250 sort of, which is about 37 millimeters high, but it's still fine for fitting your flight controller and stuff in there, I think. So that shouldn't be an issue. Oh, the front one is actually 37 millimeters, I think. 35 at the front. Yep. Very narrow at the front there, by the way. These two standoffs are 20 and a bit apart. They are very close there. So it's not an issue as long as your camera is not one of the ones that I was planning to put in. But this one here should be alright. Well, okay, we'll get to that. But 6-inch props are not going to work. Nope. And 5-inch props will be fine, because that's what it's made for, I suppose. And I think they're not going to come up too high. I was worried that they might be sort of in the range of the battery height, but I think they're going to be just sort of on the level of the plate there, so that's not too bad. Alright, on the back there is a space that is quite obviously supposed to be for an X260 plug, given the shape and the fact that it fits perfectly in there. And I can't slide it all the way through. That's simply because on the back of the X260 there's a little marker for minus. So you've got negative on this side there, and you've got positive on that side, and it's just because of those that it's not sliding through. You could probably trim them off and slide it through, but I'm not really sure how this is supposed to be used, because there are on each side of this plug hole a couple of little holes drilled. They look like about 2mm holes. Hold on, sorry. So just on each side of that you can see a couple of holes there, and they are, I measured them before, they are 22mm apart exactly. So there must be some kind of a mount that you can buy that will hold your X260 in there nice and solid, but I am not familiar with that kind of a mount. I had a look on Banggood for mounts, and these are the ones that I've used in the past, but they hold it from the side, or they hold it going sideways. So if you were to be using that kind of a mount, it would be going like that. But I haven't seen any that hold it standing up like that. So if you know of where I can find whatever I'm supposed to get to make a nice mount for my plug there, let me know in the comments and I'll see if I can get one and try it out maybe. But apart from that, it's a perfect fit. What's next? So video transmitter, there is a hole at the back here. I probably would have just recessed that in, would I? I don't know, actually that's probably right. But the hole is exactly, maybe able to hear the thread sort of sliding in. It's exactly just big enough for the thread to go through, so that's quite nice. Not sure how you would arrange your transmitter. Maybe you could use one of those little extension cords to make your antenna a little bit, maybe so you could put this in the back there and have a little bit longer, but it's kind of tempting to try and just put this directly out there, isn't it? So what I might try is I might unsolder this plug and bend the pins on it a bit and then solder it back so that see how that would fit like that if it was at that angle? It would just fit in, and then you'd be able to change your video channels at the back, and it would still be protected inside the frame so it wouldn't get directly hit into anything if it got an impact from here. The only trouble though is that X220 is going to be right above it, so you'd have to make sure that your power wires were not in the way and they were properly insulated so they weren't touching on the back of this. But that's tempting to try that. I might actually give that a go, although my wires for this are going to be coming out from that little plug on this side somewhere. Anyway, something to think about. This is an 1804 motor, and like the 1806s, they are 12mm spacing across here, and unfortunately you're not going to be able to mount those on this frame without modifying it a little bit. I did a quick test fit here, and well, yeah, it's just not going to fit. The holes are so close to being okay, but they're not. And it's going to be impossible to show you in there because it's all black, but yeah, just take my word for it. 1804, 1806 is not going to be able to fit directly on here without changing something yourself. Right, camera mounting. You can see here that the camera, the FPV cam plate at the bottom, that is the highest angle that you can get. So there's two slots at the top there that you can choose, and I've chosen the one that's given me the most angle, and still that's all it is. It looks like barely 10 degrees, maybe not even 10 degrees. It's not much, especially when you consider that the HD cam mount is probably about 30 degrees behind it. So that's a little bit annoying. I kind of would like them to match up a bit more. So if you wanted to be a little bit more relaxed flying, you could maybe put a little bit of block in here to change this angle, or behind your FPV cam you could put a little extra bit of spacer to make it sit up to the same angle as the one at the top. Yeah, which is what I'll probably do, because I noticed that when I put this in here, so that's how the camera fits in. You wouldn't really want to have a camera that has any larger of a lens covering than that. So I'm not going to be able to use the Runcam Owl camera, which I was planning to, unfortunately. So I'll just have to use this one, which that'll be fine. But you can see that if you were to put a spacer in, so putting a spacer in the top of the FPV cam so that it rotated around like that, then the FPV cam and HD cam are perfectly aligned, so you'd be lining up your HD shot exactly with what you see in your FPV camera as you're flying, which is kind of nice. Alright, let's take that out, and I'll just remove this so that we can look at how that FPV cam would actually be mounted. Let's take this right off, do I? Yeah. Yeah, so this, I guess it's convenient that you can take that off as a separate piece, isn't it? If you didn't want to undo the whole thing, you could just sort of take that off and maybe get a bit better access around this area. So the plate for the FPV cam looks like that. It's quite narrow, 3 centimeters across total. Yeah. And you can see that on this camera, at least, the plastic housing of the lens has a couple of screws on each side of it there, and they line up perfectly with the little notches on each side here. And there's a sort of a tab or a tongue or whatever you call it at the bottom of the camera there, which lines up perfectly with the notch at the bottom of this one. So this camera goes right in there very nicely and snugly, and the holes, if you rotate it right, they line up quite nicely to fit in there like so. Again, hard to see. Where are they? There. Oh, you can see one hole on the right. If I just did that, yeah. So it fits in there pretty nice. Only thing that's a bit strange about that though is that those holes are actually holding the board part of the camera to the lens housing. So these are the screws on the back, so you can see them there, and they're self-tapping into that plastic. So I'm not sure how you would get them to come right through and hold on to this piece as well. You might have to completely replace these screws with some non-self-tapping ones and put a little nut on the front, which I have done with another camera in the past, and that works okay. It's a little bit tedious to have to do that though. So probably what most people will be doing is using the regular method of using these 4 holes around the outside, which only just give you enough room in this one. In fact, it looks like you don't even really have quite the space that you need. You see what I mean? The holes there are... oh yeah, that looks alright. Should be alright. So that's probably what I'll do, and just angle it back there with a little bit of a spacer or something. Yeah, okay, that's that. What else? Oh, in case it wasn't obvious, the holes, which actually go all the way through to the bottom, are spaced out for a regular 30mm spacing flight controller board. Battery looks like that when it goes on. That's a 1300 milliamp hour 3S there. So you're going to be looking at something like that. The battery's reasonably low down, and it's nicely supported at the front by this whole camera plate there, so it's not going to be sliding forward and knocking your camera off. And speaking of the camera mount, I've kind of changed my mind about this camera mount. I'm thinking I might give it a try, and instead of using my run cam, I will actually try using my Xiaomi Yi on here and see how it goes, because a few days ago I was flying my larger quadcopter up the hill and had a crash, and the gimbal is almost every plate of the gimbal has been bent and needs to be unbent. So my Xiaomi Yi is kind of sitting idle at the moment. So let's have a look at how this goes on. Might just take that off so that we can get a better look around it. See how these are threaded? Yeah. Anyway. The space in the middle of these 2 plates is 2 centimeters, which is exactly what you have for some of this tape. Fits in there perfectly, almost no wiggle room at all. It's really nice. And at first I thought, well, that's great, but when you put your camera on, then you're going to have to sort of, because the lens is there, you're going to have to strap it over there. And then I realized that I actually got this thingy with the gimbal. So this is probably what you're supposed to use, something like this. And this is also 2 centimeters exactly. So you can probably buy these if you don't have them, but that's exactly 2 centimeters as well. And you would just put that over there, and then the lens would be exactly in the center of your quadcopter as you fly, and it would be very, very secure, and there's no way that a crash is going to allow the camera to slide forwards out of the Velcro, which is what happens when you have cameras like this, because the Velcro is going to be around this way and the impact is going to let the camera slide through the Velcro and out. So I'm actually, yeah, quite interested to give this a try now that I've seen how superior a method of mounting that it is. And you just wrap that around there, I guess. And your button is free to be pressed. Okay, so that's probably why the pros are doing it that way, isn't it? They know better. What else do I have to say? I think that's probably about it. Yeah. The edges are kind of sharp. These corners here in particular are quite sharp. But that's alright. I don't think I'll bother doing anything about it. Yeah, the only thing that sort of worries me a little bit is how narrow this waist section is. If I was doing it, I'd make it maybe a little bit wider here, or just take out this hole in the middle completely, because that is just, it's not really necessary, I think. There is a 4mm gap in the middle there that you can probably use to put some wiring through, which is kind of handy. Yeah, looks nice. I like the look of it, and I'm interested to try out how this camera mount goes. So it's a toss-up between this one and the RD210 when it arrives as to which one I actually use, but you'll find that out in a future video, I suppose. But for now, thanks for watching.